What is it about Wednesdays that's been bringing out all the weirdos? And I'm not talking about the good weirdos that we know and love. I'm talking about the weirdos. Like, I can forgive stuff happening on a Friday and a Saturday because it's the end of the week. People are partying. People are going crazy. You expect it. You know, like, you just expect it. But Wednesday? So I work overnights at a hotel, and when I came into my shift last Wednesday, this poor, sweet angel of a evening shift girl looked at me and said, "Hey Jessica, I just have to let you know that something kind of weird happened today. A guest asked me to show him my feet." And she said, "Yeah, no, he saw that my nails were painted and he wanted to know if my toenails were painted too." And I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Well, then take off your shoes and show me." And I'm just sitting there like, did he at least slip you a 20? No, but actually she was pretty freaked out. And when she said, "No, I'm not taking off my shoes and showing you my feet," he got all offended and he was like, "Wow, well, you're the first woman that I've asked to show me her feet who's told me no." And I'm like, "Sir, do you ask women to take off their shoes at their workplaces often? How have you not been arrested, my dude?" Oh, but it gets worse. He then proceeds to ask if the employees park in the same place that the guests do. And of course, that's a little sus. So we send out my security to check the parking lot before my girl's supposed to leave. And guess who's there waiting in the parking lot, oh so casually? We decided to just have my security come back in and escort my front desk agent out, make sure that she gets in her car undisturbed and drives away. I told him, make sure she drives away. After that, I didn't see this guy for like another 3 hours. And I'm sure you might already have a mental image of what this guy looks like in your head, but he was in his early 30s, young, reasonably attractive, in a suit. He was a businessman, and he wasn't that intoxicated. Like, he had a couple drinks, but he wasn't like intoxicated. And he comes back in at about 2 a.m. and proceeds to ask me about my shoes. And at this point, I'm being polite, I'm being professional, but I'm not being my usual Disney princess self. But I do take some of that princess training and I steer the conversation. I ask him, "Oh, are you going to this event that's happening at the hotel tomorrow?" And he says, "No." And I say, "Oh, what are you doing tomorrow?" And he says, "Well, I have to be really early to get to this meeting." And I say, "It's already 2 a.m. You should get to bed, huh? You should probably get to bed. It's late." And thankfully, he does get the hint at this point and goes away. But if that conversation had continued and he'd asked me to take off my shoes and show him my feet, I would have lost my status on Team Purity. Because the things that would have come out of my mouth would have not been very pure. So let's talk about pet policies in hotels. Someone recently commented on one of my videos that they were upset because they had booked through a third party and the third party had told them that the hotel was pet friendly, but when they brought their cat, the hotel said, "You can't have a cat here." Quick little travel hack: if a hotel says they're pet friendly, 9 times out of 10, they just mean dogs unless explicitly stated otherwise. There are sometimes exceptions to the rules. I was working in a hotel in 2016 that was pet friendly, but usually only allowed dogs, and there was a hurricane coming through and I need to bring my cat, and my boss was like, "Fine." The best thing you could do is call ahead and ask. I have had people turn up to my hotel with geckos and lizards and hamsters and cats, and I'm just like, no. And then they get upset with me and they're like, "Well, I'm here. I already have a room. You're going to tell me I can't have a room because I brought a little tiny hamster?" And I have to say, yeah, it's policy. You should have tried to sneak it in. Because like, that is always an option. You could just try to sneak the animal in. And if you're smart about it, if you're careful, you might even get away with it. But if you don't act surprised when we clap you. If you get caught with the animal in the room, you may get kicked out or fined. If you leave behind a giant animal-related mess, once again, you might get fined and you might be put on a do not sell list. Just do it at your own risk. Oh, and when you leave, take the animal with you. Don't leave it in the trash can. So when you've been working in hotels for a while, there comes a point in your career where you start to feel like, I've seen it all, I've done it all, nothing can surprise me. And then you work in hotels for a little while longer and you realize there's always going to be something new and surprising, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So to set the stage for a recent surprise that happened to me when I was working overnight at my hotel, we had this couple who was staying with us for a while. They were a very nice couple, elderly, and the husband had just had surgery at a hospital nearby. And like I said, they'd been with us for a while, so we all knew them, we all liked them, and we all loved their little 5-month-old Yorkie that they brought with them. But I come in for my shift one evening, and all of a sudden, ambulances pull up outside of our hotel, and we're all like, "What's going on? We didn't call those. What's happening?" Turns out the husband had had some complications after his surgery and he needed to go to the hospital. So the paramedics rush upstairs, whisk him out, and he and his wife have to leave the little puppy in the room in the crate. And of course, because the puppy's probably very scared and confused, she starts yapping and whining constantly, and I get a call from neighboring guests saying, hey, there's a dog yapping, can you make it stop? And we can't exactly tell these guests, oh, sorry, its owners have gone to the hospital. No, we can't. Deal with it. So my trainee and I call the general manager and we ask him what to do, and he says that if we're comfortable with it, we could just go to the room, get the puppy, bring her downstairs, and watch her until the parents come home. Now, keep in mind, this is a very unusual situation. Under no circumstances would hotel staff usually go into your room and take your animal out of it. That's highly irregular. However, because we knew these guests, because they stayed with us for a long time, and because we knew the dog was friendly, we went ahead and left a voicemail with the owners letting them know that we were going to watch after their dog while they were dealing with the hospital stuff. And honestly, she was a perfect little angel. I mean, look at that face. How could she not be wonderful? And she helped me at the front desk, checking people in, and just pretty much the whole night she stayed right by my side. My shift did end before her owners came back, so my AM person ended up just inheriting a puppy, and she was pretty excited about it. I mean, we all were excited to look after her. I mean, she was just a little angel and so cute. But by the time I returned from my shift that evening, the owners had come back and they actually came to the front desk and thanked me and my trainee for looking after their puppy all night. They were so happy to find out that she hadn't been left alone all night in her crate, scared. So that was awesome. I am gonna miss that little dog though. I think every workplace should have a workplace pet because, it just made the shift 10 times better. Hi, my name is Jessica. I recently started working at the most magical place on earth, and no, I do not speak for the brand or the company. I work at one of the resort hotels, and on my very first day, I was able to do something really magical for a little girl and her family. Now, to set the stage of what happened, this family had just checked in, and shortly after, the grandmother came up to my desk and said, hey, has anyone turned a Mulan doll into Lost and Found? My granddaughter lost it. I didn't find the doll in Lost and Found, so when I came back out, I got down on my knees and I took the hands of this little 4-year-old girl, and she's got tears in her eyes, and I tell her, Princess, I'm so sorry we didn't find your doll, but you know what? Tinkerbell and I are going to do our best to look for her, okay? And she says, okay. And I looked to her grandmother and I asked, is it okay if I give her a hug? And her grandmother says yes, and I ask her, could I give you a hug? And she nods and she throws her arms around me, and I promise her again, we are going to do our best to find her doll for her. And before they leave, I grab the grandmother while the little girl is distracted, and I'm like, what other princesses does she like? And then immediately after they're gone, I whip around to my trainer and I say, we're doing something. And my trainer says, okay, what do you have in mind? So I tell her my idea, and just as we're about to go get the stuff that we need for it, I hear, Jessie! And I turn around, and it's the little girl and her grandmother, and she has her Mulan doll, and I go and I give her a big hug. We're all excited. And when she walks away, I look to my trainer and I say, should we still do what I wanted to do? And she says, sure. So I do some shopping in the gift shop, and we sent her a bag with a Merida doll, because that was her other favorite princess, a Tinkerbell doll, a little Tinkerbell pin, and a note that says, Tinkerbell found another friend for you. We hope that you love her too. And just before we're about to send that gift to their room, one of my coworkers comes to the back and says, hey, Jessie, your little friend is looking for you. So I run back out to meet her, and her whole family is there, including her sister. And both of them are just hugging me and hanging off of me and not letting me go. And it was just the sweetest feeling. I loved it so much. And then after we sent the gift to their room, the person who delivered the gift said that they were so excited and they loved it so much. And it was just, it made me very happy. I think I'm gonna like it here. So I have a confession to make. When I was young, I was terrified to go on It's a Small World, and not for the reason you would expect. You would think it would have been because of the, terrifying animatronic doll singing the most catchy, annoying song in the world, but in fact, it was the boats. When I was really little, I almost drowned in a kayaking incident. Now, I say I almost drowned. In reality, I almost drowned my bonus mother because I was climbing her like a ladder trying to escape the seaweed that was touching the bottom of my feet, but it was still terrifying. But this fear of boats persisted for a long time. And there was one day that my mom took me to Disneyland, and we probably waited an hour and a half in line to ride It's a Small World. And when I got to the front, I saw the boat and I said, nope, can't do it, nope. And my poor mom is trying to explain to me that the boat is on a track in water that's like this deep. I will be absolutely fine. But I am throwing a full-on tantrum saying, I am not going on that boat! So after waiting an hour and a half, we don't even get in the ride. We just leave the line. And my mom is low-key kind of fuming, and she decides to get a little bit of revenge. She tells me that the Haunted Mansion is Pooh's house. And don't I want to go ride through Pooh's house? And the only thing I really gathered from that experience was that, Pooh's private life is kind of messed up. So I think we're all pretty familiar with the Reddit thread AITA. And recently, I got to contribute my own story. So recently, my parents and I were all out shopping together, and we saw this brand of alcohol that we all really like had released a limited edition flavor. So my parents bought a pack to try, and I tried it, and it was really good. So I decided a few days later to go pick up a pack for my home, and when I got to the grocery store, they were sold out. And I was pretty sad about it, but I figured whatever, and I went over to my parents' house to go hang out with them, and I look in their fridge, and lo and behold, they have another pack of that limited edition flavor. And I look to my bonus mom and I say, hey, I just went to the store and I couldn't find it anywhere. And she said, oh, yeah, your dad bought the last pack. So when my dad came down the stairs, I turned on him and I went, you stole the last pack from me. And my dad just looks to me and says, Jessica, that pack's for you as a gift for your birthday. And of course, I'm just like, oh, I look over at my bonus mom and I'm like, why didn't you say anything? Why did you let me go off on my dad like that for no reason? And she just said, I knew what would happen, and it was funny. So that day, I was indeed the asshole.
Bet you've been a fan of me. See me in your fantasies. Everything I got working for me. So eat that, peep that. I'm the one to beat, yeah. I'm the one to beat, yeah.
I could hear you.
Gregory, you won't die. Death only.
So today is my favorite unofficial holiday, Discount Candy Day, otherwise known as Day After Valentine's Day. And the store opened about 5 minutes ago, so let's go in. Yeah, full selection, baby. Yes. Duh. Should I get this to display it all in? Like, I'm thinking yes. Don't try to hide the cute stuff from me. Ooh, is that little heart hiding? Aw, that's so cute. Okay, that should be enough candy to put me in a coma. Sure. Yep. And for all that, I'm just gonna fill those up in my car because it's 7 a.m. in a Publix parking lot and I have nothing better to do. All right, so we've got Nerds and Sweet Tarts, some Airheads. I'm gonna top it off with chocolate.
So I'm sure many of us are familiar with this lovely human Tori Phantom. They are an amazing parent to their kids, and I have been very inspired watching their videos with the way that they approach conflict resolution with children. I work at the most magical place on earth, and no, I don't speak for the brand of the company. But every day I have the opportunity in my role as a concierge to work very closely with kids. And just the other day I had a family of 5 check in. It was mom, dad, older brother, older sister, and a little sister. And I got their room all ready for them, and I made up their key cards, and on their key cards I wrote everyone's name as it appeared on their reservation. But the littlest girl, Vivian, looked at her key, looked at me and says, I don't want Vivian, I want Izzy. This little girl looked to be about kindergarten age, and both myself and her parents were a little confused. We said, your name is Vivian, why do you want Izzy? Why wouldn't you want Vivi? But she said, no, I want Izzy. Her parents and I were still kind of like, but then her big sister stepped in and said that Izzy is a character in her favorite TV show, so that's why she wants to be called Izzy. And the little girl was like, so I say, okay, because it's no problem for me to write a nickname on a card. So I get a white piece of paper and a pen, and I get down on my knee with this little girl, and I prop the paper up on my knee, and I ask, how would you like me to spell it? I can spell it I-Z-Z-Y. And she says, no, I don't want I-Z-Z-Y. That's not how you spell Izzy. And I said, okay. We kept going back and forth, and there was no way of spelling it that she liked. She didn't like I-S-S-Y, I-S-Y, and she kept getting more and more frustrated. And at one point, her dad tried to step in and say, hey, Izzy's how you spell it, just spell it Izzy. And I could tell that this little girl was getting more and more frustrated and more upset. And I heard Tori Phantom's voice in my head saying that even though this doesn't seem like a big issue to myself and her parents, this is really important for her. So I need to do my best to relate to her and make her feel heard. And she's getting really tense, really worked up, saying, it's Izzy, just spell it Izzy, I just want to be spelled Izzy. And I could see that panic and that frustration setting in. So I take her hand and I say, hey, princess, take a deep breath for me. And she nods and she takes a nice deep breath and she lets it go and she's feeling more relaxed. And I give her the pen and I say, how about you try spelling it for me? Now she's a 5th grader. She doesn't really know her letters that well. So she ends up tracing I-Z-Z-Y the way I spell it. But I don't call her out on it. I don't try to make her feel bad. I just say, okay, let's spell it your way. And then I make up her key card for her, I give it to her, and she is the happiest little thing in the world. Her parents are really apologetic. They're saying, we're sorry we took so much of your time. And I said, it's completely fine. I'm just glad we can make her happy too. If not for binge watching Tori Phantom's videos, I might not have taken that same approach with that little girl and made her so happy in the end. So go check out Tori Phantom. They are an amazing creator and amazing parent. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy more Disney story times in the future. Bye! I am so bored right now. The lobby is completely dead. There's nothing to do, and I still have like an hour on the clock. Yeah, we got like what, 8 arrivals left? We don't even need to both be here. They should just let one of us go home already. Yeah, for real. Oh, hey, incoming. Hey ladies, question for you. Who wants to... Me, please, I volunteer, anything. She's probably gonna make you like dust or something, you know that, right? I literally don't care. I am that bored. Well, I was going to ask who wants to go home early. What, really? Wait, what? But Jessie, you were so quick to volunteer, so you can go home. Wait, but I want to go home early too. Shouldn't we like decide between us or something? Well, Jessie's the one who volunteered, so if you want to go, you can go. Well then, okay, I will see you guys later. Have a great night and goodbye. Have a great night. Maybe next time you'll be a little quicker to volunteer, huh? When do you work next? Monday, Tuesday. You want to trade schedules? Yeah, totally. Okay, I'll ask right now. Everyone! Since it is so slow right now, all the leaders are going to come and wash the desk while you guys are issued a challenge. What challenge? I want you guys to race and see who can deliver an envelope to room 3567 the fastest. What's the prize for whoever's first? Good question. I will treat whoever delivers it first to dinner at our fine dining restaurant. Anything we want? Mm-hmm. Now what are you waiting for? Go! Uh-huh. You were right. They all ran. Back off, my elevator! Back here! I can't see which door it is. I really can't even find the room. We've been tricked. Welcome back. So, what did we learn from that adventure? Our room numbers only go up to 65. Uh-huh. Looks like everyone here needs to brush up on the layout of the hotel that they work at, huh? I'd like to have a quick talk about managers, and specifically what makes a great manager and what makes a not so great manager. I recently posted a video about a manager playing a couple tricks on their employees in order to teach them a lesson. Those were both my stories, and it was the same manager who did both of those things at different times, and I loved that manager. I thought that manager was amazing, but some people were commenting saying that they thought that that manager was horrible and how dare they trick their employees in doing that, and I was kind of like, huh, interesting reaction. Personally, I prefer managers who are a bit more relaxed and have fun with their employees like that over managers who are stiffened by the books, but I am biased. To make a long story short, I had a manager at that same location who we would joke was born in a suit. He was very stiff, very staunch, and no one liked him. But to boil it down, I would much rather have a fun and goofy manager than a manager who acts like we are all just cogs in a wheel. But I want to know your manager horror stories. So last time I went to Disney's Hollywood Studios, I noticed something very interesting. As I was walking around, I saw a guy who was dressed up exactly as Anakin Skywalker with the hair, the costume, and everything, but it was just a normal guy. It wasn't a Disney cast member, and I was like, wait, what? And I was surprised because last time I checked, the people who were above the age of 14 were not allowed to wear costumes to Disney unless it was for, like, Mickey's Not So Scary. But then my dad pointed out that Disney's Star Cruiser, the new hotel experiences, encourages guests to dress up and live their Star Wars fantasy. And when I looked at the rules for the ship, it is the same as when you go to these special events at Disney. And when you stay on the ship, you do take an excursion to Batuu in Hollywood Studios. So I went to the rules page for costumes at Disney, and sure enough, they still say that you can't wear costumes if you're 14 years or older unless it's for the Halloween or Christmas events, and some outfits inspired by Star Wars because of the Star Cruiser, I'm sure. And they even do refer to it as bounding, like Disney bounding. Is this crazy important? No, but did I find it interesting? Yeah. What's your favorite flavor, vanilla or chocolate? Only one right answer. Just one right answer, Anna? Elsa, chocolate's the best. All right, honey, we're almost at the front of the line. Are you so excited to meet Anna and Elsa? Yeah, I'm so excited. Hi, come on up. Hello there. Hi, Anna. Hi, Elsa. Question: when you were growing up, did you guys get potty pops when you were being potty trained?
এই কি অসহায় লোকের মাথাকে ফুলের টপ পরে গিয়েছে, খুন হয়েছে।
তোমার ফাঁসি হবে।
টপ তো বলেছে আপনার মেয়ে।
আল্লাহ, আমি কি পাপ করছি যে আমার উপর তুমি এত বিপদ দিলা?
পকেটে হাত দেন।
আপনি আমার দরবের ভাই, কিছু নিয়েন না ভাই, আমি গরিব।
ওই পকেটে
আঙ্কেল আমার গাল দিছে, সে আমার গাল দিছে, সে এমন গাল দিছে টেলিভিশন টুথ মেরে দিত।
আপনি কি আসলে স্মৃতি হারিয়েছেন?
আপনি কিন্তু একটু বিবিবি আছেন, বড় লোকের বলদ বেটি। তরে আমি আমার আর চিত্রার কিছু ভয়ঙ্কর অন্তরঙ্গ ছবি দেখাবো, এটা দেখার পর তুই ডিসিশন লবি, তুই কি চিত্রারে বিয়া করবি না আমি বিয়া করবো।
সেগুলো কোথায় পাবেন?
এখন তুলবো আমরা, এটা আসুন। এই চিত্রা আসুন।
তুমি করে বলছেন কেন?
ফিল আসতে হবে না, আমি রাস্তার মানুষ তো, পথে চলতে চলতে নানান ধরনের মানুষের সঙ্গে পরিচয় হয়। আপনার টাকাটা সেই সাহায্যের কাজে লাগবে। আমার জীবনের সবচেয়ে সুন্দর অধ্যায় চিত্রা।
আমারও বাংলার প্রতিটি ঘরে আস্থার নাম আরএফএল গ্যাস স্টোভ। তাই তো তার সাথে আমার সম্পর্কটা হয়েছে আরো দৃঢ়।
আরএফএল গ্যাস স্টোভ, পরিবারের একজন, চিরদিনের বন্ধন।
ও কোথায়? সেখানে যেখানে আপনি তাকে পাঠাতে চেয়েছিলেন।
পারিবারিক প্রবলেম যেটা হয় প্রত্যেকটা ফ্যামিলিতে।
আপনাকে আরো কিছুক্ষণ থাকতে হবে। আপনার সাথে আমার আরো বেশ কিছু কাজ বাকি আছে।
তোমা আমাকে কখনোই ভালোবাসেনি, আমিও না। সব সময় খোঁচা মেরে কথা বলতো।
আমি তোমার সাথে থাকতে পারবো না। তোমার যা ইচ্ছা তুমি করো, তোমার যেভাবে ইচ্ছা তুমি করো, আমি আর কোনোদিন কিছু বলবো না।
আপনারা বসে আছেন কেন? আসেন নাচি। হ্যাঁ চলো নাচি বাবা।
এতে করে পুলিশ যদি সন্দেহ করেও বসে যে এটা অ্যাক্সিডেন্ট নয়, মার্ডার।
শালার বুড়া নিজে তো মূল্যই আমাকে একদম ডুবাই দিয়ে গেছে।
এই যে চলে আসছে পেন দিতে, দেখছিস?
ভাইয়া তো ফোন করছিল এয়ারপোর্টে তেল লাগে দাঁড়াই গেছে।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম।
কেমন আছেন দুলাভাই?
আসি মোটামুটি। দুলাভাই মানে?
এমন ভাব করতেছেন মনে হয় কিছু জানেনই না।
গ্রামের সব মানুষ কয় যে হে নাকি আমনের মাইয়া।
শুনলাম আপনি নাকি বিয়ে লেগে রাজি হয়েছেন।
আমি তো মদ খাই না।
অ্যাকচুয়ালি এটা অ্যাপেল জুস।
গ্রামবাসী আমারে ধরছে সামনে মেম্বার নির্বাচনে, ওরা আমারে মেম্বার প্রার্থী হিসেবে দাঁড় করাতে চাই। ভাবছিলাম এটা দিয়ে বিয়েটা শেষ, সমস্যা নাই, বিয়েটা আমি দেখতেছি আব্বা। আপনি আপাতত লাখ দিয়ে চালান।
2 লাখ টাকা দিয়ে নির্বাচন হয়? জীবনে বহুত বেঈমান ভাই দেখছি, বহুত বেঈমান ভাইয়ের গল্প শুনছি, কিন্তু আমার ভাইয়ের মতো বেঈমান আমি জীবনে কোনোদিন দেখি নাই।
বিয়ে করার জন্য ফাল পারতেছে। আচ্ছা টাকা নেই দিলে বিয়ে করবে কি দিয়া?
ওর বিয়ে শাদীর মধ্যে আমি নাই।
কামিয়ানের মা শফিকুলের কাছে বিয়ে দিব না, ভাইকে দিছে।
ওরাই তো বিয়ার প্রস্তাব পাঠাইলো।
আর নরমালি যদি কোনো পোলার কাছে টাকা পয়সা না থাকে তাহলে কোনো বাবা মাই তো তার মেয়ের তার সাথে বিয়ে দিব না। আমরা কি দিব?
প্রাণডালের আবেশে জটিল সময়ও মুঠোয় চলে আসে।
হা করো
সময়টাকে মুঠোয় নিয়ে নাও।
প্রাণডাল।